Good morning, boys and girls. We are on page 60. This is lesson number 11, homework. Make sure you are on the correct page. For problem number 1, they asked you to estimate the product, which the product means the answer to a multiplication problem. So whenever you hear the word product, that means you're answering to a multiplication problem. So next, they ask you to solve using the standard algorithm. Standard algorithm looks like this. It's when you're multiplying vertically. And then they ask you to use the thought bubbles to show your thinking. Draw an area model on a separate sheet of paper if it helps you. If you like using the area model, you definitely can, but for this one, we're going to be focusing on standard algorithm, okay? So in this little cloud bubble or think bubble, it says right here 2.42 or 2 and 42 hundredths times 100 is equal to 242. So they're asking you to think about it because it might help you figure out how to solve for this problem. So the first thing they also ask you to do is they ask you to round. They're asking you to round 2 and 42 hundredths. I rounded 2 and 42 hundredths to 2, and I rounded 12 to 12. I can also round it to 10 if I want to, but I felt that 12 would be more accurate. So I multiplied that together and I got 24. If you multiply 2 times 10, you would get 20, right? So I'm going to now multiply the standard algorithm. 2 times 2 is equal to 4. 2 times 4 is equal to 8. 2 times 2 is 4. Bring down my 0. Now multiplying in my tens place. 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 4 is 4, and 1 times 2 again is equal to 2. I'm going to add all of my numbers together. 4 plus 0 is equal to 4, 8 plus 2 is equal to 10, 4 plus 4 is equal to 8, plus 1 is 9, and bring down my 2. Now notice that I rounded my number already, and it should be close to 24. So that means that my decimal is going to be right after 29 because 2 is too small and 29 is actually closer to 24. So that's why I'm putting my decimal between 9 and 0. Now, if you don't understand that way, the other way you can do it is if you are moving your decimal twice over in your problem, then you are doing the same in your answer. Okay? Now, we're going to move to problem B. For problem O, and this side you're just filling your answer in. So I'm plugging in 29.04 or 29 and 400. And now I'm going to move on to the next problem. For problem B, they're asking you to multiply or round first 4 and 13 hundredths times 37. I rounded 4 and 13 hundredths to 4 and 37 to 40. 4 times 4 is equal to 16, and I add my 0 at the end, which gives me 160. Now I'm going to solve. 7 times 3 is equal to 21. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 2 is equal to 9. 7 times 4 is equal to 28. I'm bringing down my 0 because now I'm multiplying in my tens place. I'm crossing off my number at the top so that I don't accidentally add it when I'm multiplying in my tens place. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 4 is equal to 12. And now I'm going to add all of my numbers together in order to find what my final answer is. I noticed that I could have put another line right here. Okay, so 1 plus 0 is equal to 1. 9 plus 9 is equal to 18. 8 plus 3 plus 1 is equal to 12. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, plus 1 is 5, and bring down my 1. Now, the same thing applies. I know that my answer should be close to 160 because when I round it, I get 160. So it makes the most sense that my decimal goes in between 2 and 8 to have 152 because 152 is closer to 160 than 15, or if I were to have 1,528. Now, if you're not understanding the rounding portion, you can also, in your question, it moves over your decimal twice. So in your answer, you also move over your answer twice, okay? So our final answer is 152 and 81 hundredths is your final answer. So they divided in order to find the answer. Okay, now we're going to move on to page 61. On page 61, we are doing the standard algorithm. They ask you to solve using the standard algorithm. The standard algorithm looks like this. It is not the area model. So The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 3 times 3, which is equal to 9. 3 times 0 is equal to 0. 3 times 2 is equal to 6. Bring down my 0. 1 times 3 is equal to 3. 1 times 0 is equal to 0. And 1 times 2 is equal to 2. I'm going to add all of my numbers together. 9 plus 0 is equal to 9. 3 plus 0 is equal to 3. And 6 plus 0 is equal to 6. And bring down my 2. Now I can round my number to figure out where my decimal goes, or I can simply move my decimals, okay? So I notice that there are 2 places that I need to move in order for my question. So the same thing applies to my answer. This is where the decimal goes, 26.39. Now, if you don't understand it that way, you can also think in your head. If I were to round 2.02 to 2 and 13 to 10, 2 times 10 is equal to 20. So my answer should be around 20. And in this case, 26 is closer than 263. Now, problem B. Same thing, I'm multiplying. 4 times 6 is equal to 24. 4 times 1 is equal to 4, plus 2 is equal to 6. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 is 21. I'm going to add my 0 because now I'm multiplying in my tens place. Okay, now in my tens place, I want to cross out the 2 at the top so that I don't get confused later on, because that happens. 3 times 6 is equal to 18. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. I'm going to multiply 3 times 3, which is equal to 9, and 3 times 5, which is equal to 15. I'm going to add all of these numbers together in order to get my final answer. 4 plus 0 is equal to 4. 8 plus 6 is equal to 14. 4 plus 2 plus 1 is equal to 7. 9 plus 1 is equal to 10. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 1 is 8, and bring down my 1. Now, if I am moving my decimal over twice in my question, then I am doing the same thing in my final answer. If you don't understand that way, you can multiply. 53 can be rounded to 50, and 34 can be rounded to 30. I know that 5 times 3 is equal to 15. Add my 2 zeros at the end, and my answer should be about 1,500. So my answer shouldn't be 180. That's why I'm not putting my decimal here. It should be 1,500. That's why I'm placing my decimal right here, or close to 1,500. Now I'm going to move on to problem number C. Problem number C, same thing, I'm multiplying. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 7 is equal to 21. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 is equal to 11. Bring down my 0, cross off my 2 so I don't get confused. 5 times 3 is equal to 15. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. 5 times 7 is equal to 35. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 is equal to 18. And now I'm adding all of my numbers together. 9 plus 0 is equal to 9. 6 plus 5 is 11. 3 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 5. 6 plus 1 is 7. 5 plus 1 is 6. 8 plus 1 is 9. Bring down my 1. I'm going to move my decimal over twice because in my question I did the same thing. If you don't know how to do that, then you can round your numbers and then multiply. So 371 can be rounded to 400, and 53 can be rounded to 50. 4 times 5 is equal to 20, and add my 3 zeros at the end. So my answer should be around 20,000. And if you notice, my answer is 19,675 and 1900s. Okay? Now, my final answer over here, or problem for standard algorithm, I'm going to multiply. 7 times 2 is 14. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 2 times 1 is equal to 2, plus 1 is 3. Bring down my 0. Cross off these numbers so that you don't get confused. 3 times 7 is equal to 21. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is equal to 4. And now I'm going to add 2 zeros because I'm multiplying in my hundreds place. Now it looks like I'm going way above there, so I'm going to erase these so I don't get confused. And now I'm going to multiply. 4 times 7 is equal to 28. 4 times 5 is 20. Plus